How's it going, everyone? My name is Max, and today we are going to be looking at every single Image comic book released for the month of October in 1993. That was an entire 30 years ago. It actually happens to be the year that I was born as well. I had an absolute blast, and it was a pleasure going back, researching, and rereading a lot of these books. So I hope that you guys get some of the same enjoyment and same nostalgia that I got while going through this list. So let's go through each one of these books. I believe there are about 14 on this list. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's take a look. First up, we have Spawn number 14. This issue was part 1 of the Myths storyline, written and illustrated by Todd McFarlane. I remember this issue vividly as a kid because of this incredible splash page of medieval Spawn. Even though he first showed up in Spawn number 9, my first recollection of him was actually in this issue. The synopsis is pretty funny. The clown, being a master of self-promotion, tells the story of a long-ago clash with medieval Spawn to a small lot of alley kids. He portrays the ancient warrior in the worst possible light, describing him as evil. And of course, the clown takes creative liberties explaining that he was the hero of the story. Unreliable narrator at its finest. The other page I love from this book is Spawn looking over his city and the classic McFarlane cape flapping in the wind over a burnt orange sky. That cityscape is absolutely breathtaking. Next we have Deathmate Black number 1, written by Brandon Choi and Eric Silvestri. The art is done by absolute legends of the comic book industry: Brandon Peterson, Brett Booth, Mark Silvestri, Jeffrey Scott, Scott Clark, Greg Capullo, Jim Lee, Whilce Portacio, Scott Williams, Sal Regla, Alex Garner, and Trevor Scott. And the cover is actually illustrated by both Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee. This was a pretty wild series. It was part of a 6-issue crossover between the Image universe and the Valiant universe. This book in particular was actually the first appearance of Gen 13. It also features Wildcats and Hardcore. The plot revolved around a chance interdimensional meeting of two characters, Solar from Valiant and Void from Image's Wildcats. The two became lovers, but their joining would mean the destruction of both the Image universe and the Valiant universe. Deathmate issues Prologue, Yellow, and Blue had been released before Black, but I think they released them as colors as opposed to numbers so that you could read them in any order and so that Valiant and Image could both accommodate to publishing delays. The art in this book is, as one would expect, absolutely amazing. The talent of these artists just drips off the page. However, the plot in this is a bit kooky. The next book on our list is actually one that I didn't even know about. Image 0, number 0. Like I said, I had no idea that this even existed until I had done some research on it. But one of the most interesting things I found about it was that it was a mail offer exclusive giveaway only obtainable by redeeming coupons found in 7 different Image titles. So you couldn't actually find this in the comic shop. You had to enter into the mail order giveaway. This issue was sent to readers who mailed in coupons published in the direct market editions of Brigade number 2, Savage Dragon 3, Spawn 4, Youngblood 0, Cyberforce 1, Shadowhawk 1, and Wildcats number 2. And once again, we are blessed with cover art debuting the collaborative works of industry legends Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Mark Silvestri, Jim Valentino, Rob Liefeld, Whilce Portacio, and Jim Lee, with each character being penciled by their respective creator. That is freaking awesome. The book is an anthology of abridged comic teasers: Liefeld's Troll, which is actually his first appearance, Lee's Stormwatch, Larson's Savage Dragon, Silvestri's Striker, and Valentino's Shadowhawk. Plus, Todd McFarlane provides 4 full-page character pinups where he introduces the Freak for the first time, who would appear in the next Spawn issue number 34. Next up on the list is my personal favorite, Prophet Number 1, created and written by Rob Liefeld and illustrated by Dan Panosian. Awaking in Berlin, Germany after some 50 years of cryogenic sleep, Jonathan Prophet finds himself out of place and out of time in a world far different than his own. Due to the defeat at the hands of Darkthorn in Youngblood's issue number 2, Prophet is found ripped from the Direct Orbiting Command Center, otherwise known as DOC, the satellite serving as his central source of information and power. Now, accompanied by the Berserker called Kirby, Prophet seeks to re-establish contact not only with the satellite that serves as his lifeline, but with an ever-changing world that seems to have passed him by. Though Prophet's first appearance was in Youngblood's number 2, where he was awakened from his cryogenic sleep, this issue was the start of Prophet's solo series. This book had a huge impact on my childhood, and this cover still gives me crazy nostalgia. I remember this as being one of the first books I ever read as a kid, and being blown away by the masculine stature and prowess of Prophet. The art and illustrations in this book are so incredibly fun and dynamic, and I always have a blast rereading this and reconnecting with that link to my childhood. We then have Stormwatch number 4, created and storied by Brandon Choi and Jim Lee, written by Sean Huffner and art by Brett Booth and Trevor Scott. In this book, the character Backlash teaches a valuable lesson about combat to the young recruits Malcolm, Battalion's younger brother, and the brash young hero Cannon. Meanwhile, a group of aliens invade Skywatch and unleash the horrible power of the War Guard back into the world. I never really read Stormwatch and don't know too much about it, unfortunately, but I cannot get enough of these interiors and cover by Brett Booth and Trevor Scott. You can tell that they are still young creators figuring out their art style, but that's almost why I admire it and why it makes it so interesting and exciting to see. These next few will be a bit of a rapid-fire round, starting with Wildstar, Sky Zero, number 3 and 4. These issues are part of the Born Under a Bad Sign storyline and are written by Al Gordon and illustrated by Jerry Ordway. Trencher, number 4. This was the last issue in this series and is created, written, and illustrated by Keith Giffen. Youngblood, Strike File, number 4. Written and scripted by Rob Liefeld and Eric Stevenson, and illustrated by Jeff Matsuda and Danny Miki. I can't help but notice, but is this cover trying to be an homage to Jim Lee's Wolverine issue number 27, the cover from 1990? Supreme, number 6, created and storied by Rob Liefeld and illustrated, scripted, and colored, all by Brian Murray. This is the first appearance of the Star Guard. Vanguard, number 1, created by Eric Larson and Gary Carlson. The art in this was really rough, and the story made no sense at all. Bloodstrike, number 4. The storyline is titled Downtime. Story by Keith Giffen and Eric Stevenson. Art by Chris Alexander, Chris Ivey, Marlo Alquiza, and Jonathan Sebal. This issue explores the characters of Bloodstrike and shows them in a different light. We see what they do when they're not on a mission and have a day off. Some things are revelation and others are just plain disturbing. Plus the backup story, A Tale of the Night, Chapter 3 by Rob Liefeld, Chuck Jones, Marlo Alquiza, and Jonathan Sebal. Images of Shadowhawk, number 2, cover by Keith Giffen, untitled story, script by Keith Giffen and Alan Grant, art by Keith Giffen. Shadowhawk and Trencher continue their battle. Team Youngblood number 2. As the elite team of Youngblood members Sentinel, Riptide, Cougar, Photon, Masada, and Dutch storm the Liberty 2 satellite, Brahma is approached by his old enemy Showdown and offered a place within the ranks of the Evil Four. Plus, the ultra-powerful psychokinetic Sci-Fire has escaped and is out for payback. Story by Rob Liefeld, art by Chap Yap and Norm Rapmuno. And finally, last but not least, Union, issue number 2, titled Exercise in Futility, written by Mike Heisler and Jeff Marriott, and art by Mark Teixeira. Omen, known as Union, was a member of a faction called the Protectorate on his homeworld of Agena. The world was mired in a long civil war as the Protectorate fought against another faction for control of the planet. At some point during the war, Union was propelled to Earth via a portal, crashing onto its surface. In this issue, Union is confronted by a criminal super speedster who can drain his energy, and the two battle it out. The story is fairly entertaining and somewhat engaging, but Mark Teixeira's art is really what makes this comic book stand out. I always love reading his comics and am always in awe of the grungy and yet elegant artwork of Teixeira's craft. So there you guys have it. That is every single book released for the month of October from Image Comics in 1993. As I said earlier, my favorite out of these was easily Prophet issue number 1. But what was y'all's favorite from this list? And do you guys remember picking these books up off of the shelves from your local comic shop during that year? Do you guys remember picking these up and reading these? And which ones were your favorites that you had picked up? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video.